Sinister Sisters podcast. I'm Felicia.
And I'm Lauren.
And we're best friends.
And we like scary movies.
And we just spent a solid 30 minutes trying to figure out the sound to record with. Yes. Though we've done it many times.
I would say at least 20.
At least 20. And every time, it's like, how can I get GarageBand to understand what I want it to do?
It's a real struggle.
It's a real struggle.
And I want everyone to know that that's the kind of effort we put into this podcast.
We'll put that 30 minutes in. We will.
And maybe it's because we've learned nothing, but...
There was a brief moment where I said, in my head, I was like, let's just take it down to one mic.
Oh my God, no.
I was going to do it.
We are a high-end podcast. We have 2 mics. We have a camera.
2 girls, 2 mics.
That's... Yeah. I thought you were going to say... 2 girls, 1 cup.
I wasn't going to.
But
as soon as I said it, I thought you would think that, and so I was very quiet. What are we doing today?
Today, you're telling me a story.
I'm telling you a story. So you also notice that if you're watching on YouTube and not on the podcast, that we are not on a bed anymore.
No.
This is turning into a very dirty sounding episode.
I know, this is really taking a turn.
But we have put the sofa bed away, which seemed like the adult thing to do, but has made me a little sadder, I think.
And we did also skip a week.
We also skipped a week, which we're not talking about, and so you can't either.
We are not embarrassed.
I'm not embarrassed at all. I'm not embarrassed that we skipped a week.
We have a lot on our plates.
I'm fine. Today, we are talking about the true story behind Lords of Chaos. So this is a movie that I initially saw just because it has Rory Culkin in it, and I think he's very lovely, and I like everything he does, so I was excited. And it basically is it's based off of a book called Lords of Chaos, which is based off the story of the Norwegian black metal band Mayhem.
And boy, are we excited.
And boy, are we excited to learn.
I'm excited.
So if you see me referring to the computer, that's because I can't pronounce a single one of these names, because they're all in Norwegian or they're Swedish, and
I don't think we have any listeners from Norway. I could be wrong.
Actually, we do.
Do you check?
No, I just have a subscriber from Norway. That I think listens.
Oh my God.
I don't know. Okay.
Well, will they tell us how to pronounce these things?
Please don't tell me. I just won't
doesn't want to know.
So, okay. Let's just go back a little in time to 1984.
Wow.
1984. 1984. Wow, that was really good.
We're singers.
I love to sing. Maybe
I'm a singer first.
One day this podcast will start. Okay. So I'm going to hit you with the first name I don't know how to say. Oystein Arseth. Was that right? Was that wrong? It was pretty close.
Yeah.
His first name in the band, so something to note, which is going to be much easier once we get through everyone's names, is that they all went by nicknames to appear more hardcore and intense. So Oystein's original name was Destructor, and then they called him Euronymous, which I think is nice.
Do you know what that means?
No. But I like it.
Sounds sort of like Anonymous.
Mm-hmm. It's sort of like Eurydice.
Eurydice and Anonymous together.
We don't even have wine today.
No, we are the soberest.
Maybe that's why I feel silly, because I don't have wine.
Yeah, maybe we're just tired.
Maybe. So 1984, Euronymous, he's the guitar player, the leader of the band. The story eventually will focus around him, but let's say some of the other members. So we had the bass player named Jorn Stuberb, also named Necro Butcher. Incredible. And he is actually still in the band today, even though I think he's absolutely the only original member. But I did listen to a fun little interview with him and the newer members about the movie, and he was just like, it's kind of like that, not really like that, kind of like that, not really like that. He doesn't seem to love to be interviewed, which I
know, I was like, some real facts.
Yes, facts.
Some real gossip.
And then they had a drummer whose name was Kjetil Manheim, but he doesn't really come up again. He's only on for this first EP, so not worried too much about him. And basically, the band formed, and they put out their first EP called Death Crash. I'm going to do something dramatic every time I say something dramatic.
Which you won't appreciate if you're listening only.
I think vocally you can hear Death Crash.
That was very exciting. I take it back.
Thank you. They had some studio vocalists come in, but no one they were really like sold on, and they put out this EP in 1986. So that's 2 years after the band formed. Mm-hmm. And after that, they basically got where the band really starts to take off is they got this member in 1988 named Dead. Dead.
Simple.
So he's a Swedish vocalist. His name is Per Yngve Olen.
Wow.
That's only really bad pronunciation. And then a new drummer, Jan Axel Blumberg, who's easier to say, who was nicknamed Hellhammer. So at this point, the whole band, they are very interested in writing really heavy, dark music and personifying that music on stage. And so they basically all went out to a house in the woods. They all lived there together. They rehearsed there. They wrote there. In the movie, they really show like a lot of like fun partying there and things like that. But I think they were like fairly serious about being a band. And Dead in particular was really interested in like what I would say performance art, but what he would say is just true life.
Amazing.
Yeah, so his character or his self, Dead, he would do a lot of crazy stage antics, such as like cutting himself live on stage. He would have like sheep's heads or lamb's heads, actual ones on stage. They were really into like shock value. He had like very specific stage clothes that he would bury and then dig up and wear.
Huh.
Which
so
I'm like,
unrelated to anything Dead, but just that he would bury them.
He would just bury his clothes and wear them later.
Okay.
And then the biggest thing, which I think had like the most lasting influence, I'll say, is that they wore the death makeup. So the like black and white painted corpse-like makeup that would become famous. The idea is to look like a corpse and to look dead. And they were all like very, very serious about this as well. Everything about their lifestyle, they wanted to be the epitome of, this sort of like anti-Christian society, their like own thing, super based around death. So,
nice.
And the sad story about Dead is that while in the house, this is in 1991, he ended up killing himself.
Jeez.
I know, we really took a turn. And he did leave a suicide note that was quite casual. You can read it online. But it literally says, like, sorry for all the blood, or excuse the blood, is what he says. And he basically slit his throat and his own wrists, and then shot himself in the head.
Wow.
Yeah. So that's brutal. And then this is...
Slit his own throat and his wrists?
Yeah.
And then shot himself in the head?
It's a lot. So
he ended up not wanting to bleed out?
I think he just wanted to go faster, I assume, is what happened.
Oof.
I assume. And so this is where sort of, I don't know if I want to say mysticism, but like legend around the band starts to form, because they had this member commit suicide, and so Euronymous, who once again is the guy that started the band, and he is sort of the leader of the band, and is also clearly like the protagonist of the film Lords of Chaos. But apparently he went in, he's the one that found Dead. He took photos of him. He thought it was like so hardcore that he had killed himself, that he had really given himself over to this. The most notorious thing is that he apparently took pieces of Dead's skull and made them into necklaces.
No. That
he would give out to members of their group and like surrounding people that he thought really like exemplar, like was like, or like gave the values that he had. So that's intense.
Yeah, that's really kind of a slippery slope.
Yes. And then he also sort of used Dead's suicide to say that Dead had so much belief around this and it was so hardcore about it that he killed himself because he thought that black metal had become too trendy and fake. And so I don't think that's why he killed himself. I think he probably had, depression and whatever other issues he may have had. But we don't know. So that's that side of the story. And by the way, that's not even the main part of the story. That's just a casual starter. Okay. So after Dead died, a couple years passed. But during that time, they still kept playing as a band. They had Euronymous started a record shop called Helvet. He also Helvet.
Okay.
I don't know. I think it's probably not. That's not the English translation. I'm not sure.
Got you.
And he also started a label called Death Like Silence Productions. So he's still very much in the community, and in the movie Lords of Chaos, which I'm not so clear on in real life if it's true or not, but was not necessarily worshipped, but really seen as like the leader of the movement.
Yeah.
People wanted to impress him. People wanted that skull necklace. Like he was sort of the guy, the leader of this whole black metal movement.
Yeah.
And then this new singer comes along. So another name. So it's Varg, but it's Varg Vikernes. Vikernes, sorry. But his stage name was Count Grishnock. So he was originally in a band called Burzum. He was a very talented singer, and so they initially brought him in. And around the same time, so this is 1992, that he starts with the band, and around this time there is a lot of burning of churches in Norway. It's literally an epidemic. It's like some of their oldest, most important churches.
That's so sad.
It's very bad. And this started happening in 1993. 7 major churches burned to the ground. And turns out it was probably Varg.
Oh my God.
Varg and potentially other members of their community.
I was going to say, of the band or no?
Maybe. But sort of unclear. But he...
Also, it does seem like they need to work out their fire safety procedures.
I think a lot of old churches are made out of wood.
And they just go...
and they just burn. So that was a bummer. But he is said to have done it for revenge for the Christian desecration of Viking graves and temples.
Oof.
So basically, once again, sort of this like anti-Christian... in a way, like looking back to the old ways, but also like with this new, like, it's very angry. It's very angry people.
It is very angry.
Okay. So that happens. 1993, this article comes out. Okay. So basically this newspaper called Burgess Tilde, I hope I'm saying that right. They do an article sort of about the black metal movement, and they interview Varg, who's pretty clearly saying, "Hi, I lit the fires." And it's sort of, in the movie they make it this very like theatrical thing of him like posing with skulls and being like, "Yeah, we're like really hardcore, but like no one's gonna know it's me, right?" Like, it's like, and they act almost in this like comedic way, and I don't know if it was actually that like silly.
Yeah.
But he basically was proud of what he was doing and really gave himself up. And so at that point, the whole movement, or the whole scene, I guess I'll say, sort of came under scrutiny from the public and the police, to the point where Euronymous ended up having to close down his record shop, because the police and the people that were living there sort of blamed this black metal movement for the burning of these churches, for all this chaos going on, which... I mean, I can understand where they're coming from.
But also, like, not fair for his record shop.
Not fair for his record shop.
I'd be like, hey, Felicia, stop burning churches.
Exactly. And so it's sort of like one guy ruined the party for everyone. Yeah. And he will continue to ruin the party. So, yeah, it gets just worse and worse. All right. And so then, August 1993, so this is all happening in a pretty short period of time. Varg, or Count Grishnock, goes to Euronymous' house and he murders him. He stabs him 23 times.
23 times?
Which seems like a lot to me.
Overkill.
Overkill.
I mean, pun intended.
Yeah. And he does end up going to prison for murder and arson, and he goes to prison for 21 years. But I'm pretty sure he's out now.
What?
Yeah, I think he's just, like, chilling.
He is on the loose.
Yeah, he only served 15 years.
Wow.
Classic.
It doesn't... I just don't think you can murder someone and get out of prison.
Yes, apparently you can.
I know.
I
just feel like...
It's pretty crazy.
I just feel like if you end a life, unless,
If you stab someone 23 times and you're just not...
Like, that's gonna happen again.
Yeah, exactly.
You don't just get that angry once.
I should also mention that Burzum, who was the... his act his band before he was in Mayhem was a solo project. So he was like playing the guitar, he's doing all the instruments and also singing. So they sort of saw him as this like, and he was like really young. And so they sort of saw him as a, like, not like a prodigy, but like a wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
He was born in 73 and that was in 91. I don't know how that makes him. 83.
Wait, what?
Oh, yeah, he was like 18 years old.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's like 18 years old. So they were like, this is an amazing, super talented young kid. Varg did have some history of like neo-Nazism. It says like when he was a teenager, but it's like this all happened basically when he was a teenager.
Oh my gosh.
But maybe not so much like while he was in the black metal scene. But yeah. Boop, boop, boop. Murder.
Jail.
And also to that, so in an interview, Necro Butcher, who once again ends up kind of bringing Mayhem back and starting the band up again, he has also admitted that, which I think was hilarious, he's like, it's been a long time, so I think I'll say, like, I was probably on my way to kill Euronymous that night too. But he just didn't do it.
What?
It was like, he's basically like, yeah, like, you know, he got there first kind of thing. Because Necro Butcher was also really resentful towards Euronymous because Dead, so Necro Butcher says, like, Dead was my friend, and my friend killed himself, and then he was sort of used, his death was, like, used in this, like, almost, like
trying to get
almost,
fame.
like, political way,
Yeah.
but within, like, this small scene,
It also feels like a little disrespectful to give out parts of his body.
I think that's what he's saying.
Yeah.
It's like, it was super disrespectful. He's like, my friend died, and this friend that totally disrespected his body and everything about the whole situation got kind of famous.
Yeah, it's like benefiting from that.
Yeah, and he was like, that was fucked up. And then, and also, I don't think Necro Butcher is as, I don't know how he felt about the burning churches, but I don't think he participated in that.
Yeah.
But so there was tension there, and there was a lot of tension happening between Euronymous and Varg because Euronymous, in the movie, they sort of show him as he is this persona for show. It's like a character, and Varg is like, no, this is who we are. If it's not real, it's not worth it. Mm-hmm. And so there's these sort of like opposing
opinions.
Yes.
Yeah.
About like how this black metal movement or like how this should all be going. And Varg thought Euronymous was like, you know, being false and fake and like a poser, basically,
right.
to use a casual term. And then Euronymous was upset because he had created this whole scene that then started being shut down because of all these church burnings and putting all this really bad negative attention on their little scene.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, so basically he killed him, and then he ended up serving 15 years.
And got out.
And basically,
and now you can meet him.
And now you can just go meet him. So he's out of jail. Necro Butcher is still playing. So basically, 1994, Mayhem got restarted again, which feels soon to me.
Yeah, it feels very soon.
Yes. And so the members that got it started back up were Hellhammer, Maniac, and Necro Butcher. Excuse me. And they just got a new guitarist. And
just moving right along.
Yeah, and even though there was some like early controversy, they still seem to be like a pretty loved band. And I think the most important things to note from this is like Mayhem was a hugely influential band. I know we didn't talk a lot about the music today, but their first EP sold like 1,000 copies in like no time. Like it was like they were a big deal, and it was a very exciting time, and
separate from all of the rest of it. They were like a great band.
Yes. And then like you have this suicide, and then you have this murder, and you have all this stuff that sort of created this big swirling legend around this band that has to do with like death and all that.
Yeah.
And then it's being surrounded by actual death is like pretty wild.
That's crazy.
Yeah. So that's what happened. You can read the book, Lords of Chaos, was from 1998.
And when was the movie?
The movie came out, I think, like 2 years ago.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I wrote here, so also these notes are from like weeks ago, so if I missed things, sorry. But I wrote here, movie made Necro Butcher sad. Which is a bummer. Which is a bummer.
Because it was so different, you think, or just sad in general?
Oh, something else crazy to say. Okay, sorry. So in 1994, they came out with another, I don't know if this is a full-length album or not, because the murder happened in the midst of recording an album.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. And, sorry, I just want to make sure I say
have
this
you
right.
ever considered murder while you've been recording an album? It does feel
Not yet.
It feels like a dramatic time.
Yes, okay. So I'm going to say that's probably wrong, but De Mysteries Dom Centenas. And so basically they started recording this, or they started writing for this album. Like, this was like the lead up to everything in 1987. And then it got obviously delayed due to murder.
Due to murder is
yes.
like the most.
And then released in 1994. The album was dedicated to Euronymous, who was murdered. But they had already recorded the bass parts.
Right.
And Varg was playing bass, and so his murderer is on the album that is dedicated to him.
That's so messed up.
I know.
Feels like you could have just recorded the bass again.
Again, that's what I thought. What was he singing on it too?
That would be.
Let's see. Yeah, they just had him on as bassist for this. Yeah, but so that's all messed up, but I think that's about it.
Jeez, that's a lot.
Yeah, so that is the suicide and murder legend around Mayhem, aka Lords of Chaos.
I love it.
And that's it.
That's amazing.
Honestly, I really enjoyed the movie. It's a very dark film, but it's really filmed, I don't want to say like a comedy, but with a lightness to it.
Right.
Or with a style to it that feels light. So even though this is like a lot of dark stuff, it's a very watchable film. It's even funny at times. Sometimes it's really fucked up at times. But I would definitely recommend it. I thought it was good.
I gotta watch it.
You gotta watch it.
Now I know the whole thing.
I know the whole thing. Hopefully, if I said anything wrong, just you can let me know in the comments. Or
especially if you're from Norway.
Yeah, then you can definitely tell us more. But that's sort of the story. And I hope you sort of enjoyed it.
Yes. I mean, I enjoyed it. I hope they did.
Okay, cool.
I'm fascinated about the band now.
Oh, yeah. I'll put like maybe a clip of it at the end of this episode.
Oh, yeah. Play a little music.
That could be fun. But yeah, so also just so you know, next week we are doing something different, which is I feel like what the theme of this podcast is we're doing something different. But next week...
We just keep switching what we want to do.
Yeah, but it's our podcast. It's our podcast.
Yeah.
But we're going to be talking about Saw. And we're just going to be talking about the first film, but it might lead into us talking about the entire franchise, which I feel really excited about.
We might get to one that really stumps us, but...
I'm very excited. I also haven't seen the later ones, so I'm very curious to see.
I've only seen the first two. Have you seen Beyond?
I've seen the first 3, but I think there are 7.
Yeah.
And then what if this leads us up to the new movie coming out?
Well, that's what I was thinking.
Oh. Is that why you had this idea? You're so much smarter than me.
Sort of. No. I was thinking about Invisible Man. We'll talk about it next week.
Yeah. But recommendation corner, first of all, go see Invisible Man.
Yes.
It's amazing.
That's our new fave.
It's so good. I loved I honestly would see it again.
Me too.
And I don't say that about a lot
No,
of
I kind of want to go back actually, knowing more things now.
Yeah.
Because I felt like I was like so on the edge of my seat the whole time.
Me too. Oh my god, I was so on the edge of my seat.
It was so good that I'm like, now I kind of want to go back and like knowing where it's going to go.
Yeah, totally. Also, Birds of Prey, if that's still in theaters by the time you watch this, it's incredible.
It's so good.
It's incredible. I would watch that again too.
Also,
I might literally order that Blu-ray as soon as it comes out. That's how much I love the movie.
I want to see the behind the scenes.
I want the behind the scenes. Okay. I think that's it, people. But we will see you in our next video/podcast.
Yes.
We hope you have some sweet, sweet nightmares.
Bye.
Bye.